Welcome to the Old Glory Renovations Podcast, the podcast about home renovations from the home renovations experts. Hosted by Rob Hefner and Mike Landry. The Old Glory Renovations Podcast wants to show you how to enjoy your home renovations.
Rob's show taught me a lot.
Choosing the right contractor for the job doesn't have to be scary, and home renovations are built to enjoy and be fun.
I got so much more for my money.
Now, here are your hosts for the Old Glory Renovation Podcast, Rob Hefner and Mike Landry.
Hey guys, welcome back to Old Glory Renovations Weekly Podcast. I'm here with Rob Hefner. He's the builder.
Yes, I am.
Good to see you, brother.
Likewise.
I'm your host, Mike Landry. We're going to be covering some important maintenance topics today. This is a contribution to you guys, so you can find out if there's some things around your home that need attention, and if you ignore them willfully and you know about them, the down road implications that you might face. So fix the little thing now before it comes the big thing. And in the second segment, we're going to be talking about inspections that the company provides to help you identify potential damage that maybe you don't understand. So, Rob, how important are the topics that we're going to be talking about today, the home maintenance issues?
Probably 60 to 70% of the total income for my company comes from deferred maintenance.
Really?
Things that could have been addressed earlier, and we'll get into the details of it, but homes, like everything else, require maintenance. Cars don't run if you don't change the oil. Homes are going to leak if you don't take care of them. And because we see so much of that, that's why I wanted to do this podcast with you today and address those things that people can look at. Okay, it may be costing me money in the long run, but it's the right thing to do. And maybe they won't ever see me if they take care of their homes.
Well, let me put a finer point on that.
Do so,
Mr. Rob. These little maintenance issues like windows, caulking, and some other things we're going to talk about, these little things might cost you about $10 to fix today if you try to do it yourself. And it'll be hundreds instead of tens of thousands of dollars in the near future. So pay attention. This is a pure gift to the people out there that own homes, have to deal with these maintenance problems. And let me tell you, the main culprit is water.
Water is evil.
Water is evil. And it is always working. It doesn't have days off. It works 24/7, and it's damn effective.
It's very good at what it does. It just degrades things a little bit over time. You mentioned windows. The difference in windows, $8.97 for a tube of caulk, and about 30 minutes to clean out the old stuff and put it in. Or, if you ignore it for 10 years, I end up replacing the entire back wall of the house because from the window to the bottom plate to the floor was completely rotted out, and the roof was beginning to sag. They noticed the roof sag. We went inside and could put our finger through the wall there where there's wood supposed to be. Water is going to destroy stuff. If you give it the opportunity to do so, finding where it comes in, where it likes to get to, and addressing those things before they become a problem is always a great idea.
Okay, so let's talk about the economic implications and differences there. So let's say I called you over to my 3,000 square foot house.
Yep.
And I said, Rob, it's time to get. I see the caulk's breaking and it's starting to shrink up. I need to go ahead and get my caulk done. So, approximately, what is that type of job range? Because I mean, houses have more windows than and some have more, some have less. So, compared to, holy crap, the water's been getting in and now it's destroyed my wall.
Right. Well, catching it before it gets bad. Now, keep in mind the painters should caulk when they paint the house, but caulk is good for 3 to 7 years. Paint generally, depending on how close to the coast you are, maybe 7 to 10. So you have to repaint your house periodically. That's a whole different subject. But that caulk, just replacing the caulk around the windows, obviously there's a lot of variables to it, but that's generally a one-day job for one guy that knows what he's doing. I'm never going to send one person by himself because ladders, and I don't want somebody falling off with nobody there. So we just got to make sure safety is taken care of. But you're talking, $400 to get the entire house done.
Okay. And let's say, like my neighborhood, people do forget to paint the house every 10 years. It just like,
It ain't just your neighborhood, buddy.
they just overlook that thing. So
It's expensive to paint the exterior of a home.
you ain't lying, but it's damn expensive to have to fix the structure, reclad the structure, and then paint it. I promise you, it's 3 times more expensive.
More than that, more expensive. I see a lot of houses in my neighborhood as well that could definitely use a paint job. And that's not due to color or anything like that. As the paint starts to degrade, it starts getting a little chalky on it, and you can see it from a distance.
If it's chalky, it's failed.
It's already failed. And when I see a house like that, I can tell you seeing it from the road without even looking up front, they have water leaks at the windows. The soffit is damaged, almost certainly. The siding, if it's a panel siding on the sides, the siding down towards the bottom is degraded at least, if not completely rotten out. And just depending on how high up that goes is how big a job it really is. But it's
So
that routine maintenance.
Just drop
that
a couple of numbers out there. They don't, just a little range so they can see the magnitude.
A single bedroom window that one tube of caulk would probably left excess would have taken 30 minutes to fix 10 years ago. Hadn't been caulked. All of that caulking around it was just gone. There were little scraps of hard stuff there that was all that's left. We went in to fix it because it was getting wet on the floor inside.
Yep.
We ended up reframing 2 studs out from the side of the window on either side just to get rid of that.
That's taking the sheetrock out. That's taking the exterior cladding out. And can you imagine if that was brick? Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, there's ways to work around brick from the inside, but it's tough and it takes time. What was a less than $10 tube of caulk in an hour of work ended up being around $6,500.
Well, so
That's a big impact.
that $100 problem you had just turned into $6,000. Intrusion, a week or two worth of work, having to repaint the inside of the bedroom, re-sheetrock, refinish, retrim. Seriously, guys, caulk is king.
Caulk is king, not just around the windows, though. When you're looking at the corners of the home around the back door, the trim around the back door on the outside. And when you're looking at your back door, look down at the very bottom because it's going to get wet there. That's where rain splashes onto it. And if that's not sealed perfectly when it's installed, over time, it's going to start seeping water up into that wood. I see a lot of homes that the bottom inch or two on either side of the door on the back door is just gone. It's not even there anymore.
Well, the door jambs, right?
Right.
Those pieces of wood rot out all the time.
Yeah.
And when the water hits the surface, it shoots right up underneath it and goes straight into your house.
Goes straight into the house and straight underneath that wood flooring that you're so proud of. And then the wood flooring starts to wrinkle. You know what I mean by wrinkle? On older style laminate, it doesn't happen today. Or on wood floors, it would just kind of get these little waves on the top. And just over time, they would get worse and worse. That's exactly what goes on with that. And that water is coming from somewhere.
And I hate to tell you, Ms. Jones, but that wrinkle's not coming out.
You can iron it, but it won't do any good. It's going to come back. You have to stop the source of the water before you deal with everything else.
Great idea.
Well, but that source is coming from the outside of the house. You can see where the water is getting in from the inside, but you got to spend time on the outside to look at it. There's a lot of details on doing that. Keeping your gutters cleaned. It's a pain to clean your gutters. I absolutely hate doing it.
Nobody does that.
I know, but I have to replace some soffit just for clarity. When you're standing outside your house and you look up at the wall and you see all the way up at the top where the wall meets the roof, that horizontal piece up there is the soffit. The vertical piece at the very edge of the shingles is the fascia. I have to replace soffit on my house because the gutters weren't draining right. They were overflowing there, and it was flowing in back around the flashing and damaging that soffit underneath. Now,
Well, I'm going to tell you this: the new construction guys stopped putting gutters on houses a decade ago. Okay,
yeah,
because it creates one. You're screwing in. They used to drive pins in. Now they screw them into the fascia, right? And if they don't clean the gutters, the water builds up and it rots out the fascia, supporting the gutters, right? So they've come out with some different technologies like that. The best one that I've seen is the one that pops on as a cap with the little holes in it, and it just attaches to a normal gutter system. There's another one that they sell direct. It's a franchise.
I know the name of it.
Rain
I don't want to
something.
go there because I haven't gotten their permission to use their name. But
No, it's got a little gap on the corner, and I do not like that system. I don't care. If you have a heavy rain, I don't see how that gutter is going to really do much for you.
Now, gutters. Why do you need them then if they're a risk to the sides of the house? Well, if you don't have gutters, you're going to have a line all the way around the house where water dripping off the roof digs a hole in the dirt. And that's not a good way to water your foundation. There's a lot of reasons to have gutters, but gutters, just like everything else, have to be maintained.
Right. And, the thing about this is that the new code standard for the city of Houston, or the existing code standard, is after you put the gutters in, which controls where the water is displaced, they required you to run that 5-foot hose extension to get the water away from the foundation.
Right. Right. You have to have something to direct the water away from the house. You don't want your house sitting in a lake.
No, you don't want that.
And the proper downspout on there. Matter of fact, I need to go look at a job this week. I got a call on it yesterday. I know. I take calls on Sunday too.
Oh, you the man.
I got a call on it
I
yesterday.
wouldn't even do that.
Well, they just need something to deflect the water away from the house because it's digging a hole right at the corner of the house.
Yep.
They don't want that. Those kind of maintenance things aren't a big deal when you do them. But if you don't do them, they can turn into monstrosities. They can turn into big problems.
Well, I've done tons of shows in Louisiana and in Houston on foundation failure and causation. And, one of the things that does cause foundation failure is ponding water at one side of the house.
At one side only.
Yeah, because the soils have to be treated equally because they expand equally with the amount of water. So if you have one side of your slab that's got water ponding and it's exciting those soils just on that corner of the house, it's causing a heaving action there, which makes the rest of the house a hammer.
Well, keep in mind how much clay we have in the soil down here. And clay expands and contracts significantly, depending on the percentage of clay, all that kind of stuff. Sorry, I don't want to get all soils weird on you here, Mike, but depending on that, a house that has flower beds across the front with a sprinkler system and nothing on the back.
Right.
Well, as that clay dries and pulls away from the house, you seen that gap against the back of a house sometimes?
Yeah.
If it's not the same gap on the front, you're basically cantilevering your house. It's hanging out over nothing on the back half of it because that clay is dried up and pulled away from it. But in front, that clay's pushing up. Guess what happens then? The foundation fails, your doors stop working, that kind of stuff. You have to take care of your gutters and your foundation just like all the other parts of a house. But it's not that complicated. I don't want it to sound like it's...
No, gutters are simple, okay? It's just you do want some kind of cover over the top so it's just not some big bucket grabbing all the pine needles and all the crap coming up, and then you're not going to do the maintenance. So if you have open gutters and you don't want to spend the money to put those caps on it, then how often do you think they should clean their gutters out or have them cleaned out?
Once a year. All the leaves fall, midwinter. This time of year is a great time to clean the gutters. Most of the leaves are on the ground already, and it's packed full of fresh leaves right now. So cleaning them once a year is adequate to the task at hand because if you get the right guy cleaning them, he'll identify other problems that you have. Hey, you got water ponding right here in this corner of your gutter, which is what I had on the front of my house, and which is why I have to replace a bunch of soffit now.
Well, okay, so moving on to paint, it's a good transition from that point, dealing with exteriors. So, what are the indications that one, you need to go ahead and repaint, and two, if there is visible damage on any of the materials? I know you guys provide an inspection where you'll come out and look at that stuff. So don't try to interpret it, but how do they identify potential hazard or damage that would provoke them to call you and say, well, please come look at this. I want to know how bad it is.
If you go up to the side of your house and rub your finger along whatever's painted and look at your finger, if it looks like you just touched a dirty chalkboard, you need to get your paint looked at. Paint will degrade over time. Everything degrades over time, myself included. So it's just the way it goes. So that's one of the things to look at. Another one is when you look down the side of the house at the bottom of the siding and you see a bunch of dents and cracks and that kind of stuff, it's worth taking a close look at that and make sure that material is not beginning to separate, decompose, whatever it happens to be. Because that's a great way for water to get up in all along the bottom of your framing materials there. And once it gets into that and that starts rotting out, now you're talking a real problem with fixing it.
Well, most people are not aware of wicking. Water will go up and goes up all the time. It doesn't sound logical, but it does. But it actually does happen, and causes a lot of failure.
It does cause a lot of failure. It's I get too far into the science of it, but adhesion is a real thing, and it's just gonna pull itself up little by little, given enough moisture underneath. A steady source of moisture can go a foot up the wall without any water at all, and I'm not talking.
Water knows no gravity, okay? Just water knows
evil.
no gravity, okay? So
water is evil. It always hurts. Now, one of the other things that we see a lot, we did a show on bathrooms. Now, I really liked that show, Mike. I thought that went really well. But one of the things we mentioned there was the grout in the showers and the bathrooms. Mm-hmm. I have a hard time giving a fixed bid for a bathroom remodel. And the reason being, if that grout's not in good shape, almost certainly there's some rot in the walls behind it.
Yep.
So just getting that cleaned out, just taking out the old stuff, putting in new, and being patient with it. By the way, when you put in new caulking, especially in a bathroom, clean it with alcohol first. Soap scum will keep it from adhering, and it'll just pop out of there in 3 weeks if you don't do that. Clean it with alcohol first.
That is genius.
Little things to make a renovation last. You know, it's not about just throwing stuff up there and making it look pretty on the outside and going away. I never want to get a call back because the project itself wasn't done well. And that is one of the things that Bill and I and Derek, we all absolutely insist on. It has to be cleaned before you put down caulking. And a lot of times I'll require them to send me a picture showing that they're doing it.
Well, and I'll tell you this, going back to the outside and siding rot and material delamination, you can't just go paint back over that, okay? It needs to be replaced and renewed so that the wall system will stay intact and the paint will do its job.
Well, keep in mind what happens to the wood as it rots. The moisture just allows a lot of bacteria and that kind of thing to get into it. And it's very much an oversimplification because I'm not smart enough to understand it fully. But once that's in the wood, it's there. So if you just sheetrock over it, or just paint over it, then all you're doing is hiding it. And it's going to rot any piece of wood it's close to, given even the slightest little bit of moisture. So removing all of the damaged wood is absolutely essential if you want a repair to last.
Well, if you don't want to replace all of it, okay, you have an opportunity, you have physical damage, that is at catastrophic failure.
Right.
It needs to be renewed, and then new paint needs to be put on the entire surface as a monolithic layer so that it protects and waterproofs and provides the aesthetics that you desire. If you let that delamination continue, water will get more prolific in that structure, transfer to potentially the actual studs that support the house, and now you're looking at a huge issue.
It's like we've said a couple times, water is evil. It's going to go where it can, and when water comes in, it's going to bring stuff with it that you don't necessarily want around structural members, especially.
It's a lot like aging, Rob. We all start off brand new and pretty.
Brand new.
We're
and
just
pretty,
damn sexy when we're young.
and then you end up looking like me.
And then, as time goes by, there's slow degradation and aging. And then we wake up one day and we got a couple of wrinkles and we're going, what the hell that come from? Well, it's ironic how quick the other ones come. It's like you get 2, you get 10, you get 20.
You go from 1 to 17 to 537, it seems like, in 2 years, while you spent your first however many years without even one. But it's the same kind of thing with a house. You get a little bit of water in there. You get one spot that's bad, and the next thing you know, that one spot that's bad that was 6-inch circle, now all of a sudden is 3 feet up the walls and 6 feet in either direction. It's problematic.
It's exponential growth, just like China's
Absolutely.
Population. It just keeps getting bigger, faster.
Just keeps getting bigger, faster, and it can really cause a lot of issues. Now, there's a lot of things you can look at that you don't have to be a remodeler to see if you need to look at. Walking around the outside of the house and looking at the windows, and if you see lines in the caulk line around the window, if it's not a pretty clean space all the way across, do something about it. If you're not comfortable about doing it yourself, then give me a call or call a good handyman. We can find a way to keep that kind of stuff from getting worse.
Well, what's very interesting about your company is that you're a full-size remodeling company, but you have 2 teams that just focus on home maintenance issues, so people can call one company and get them addressed.
We can do that. Those teams aren't as robust right now as I would like. It's the Christmas season, and some people aren't always available over Christmas. But we want to be able to fully have that capability so that we can deal with those things like that in a timely manner.
Okay, so let's talk about door jams, right? Doors that aren't closing. Many of these houses have that problem after they're about 10 years old. It is symptomatic of potential foundation failure, but that doesn't mean that your foundation's failed. This is a common problem. Structures move, right? You're on a floating slab. It's going to adjust. It's going to settle, and it could impact or does impact those particular functions.
A crack in the paint on the wall, a door that's not working right could indicate a slab problem. It could indicate that we just had a really dry summer and the slab flexed a little bit more than it normally does. It could just indicate that we had a really, really big rain and the slab flexed more than it normally does. When I say the slab flexed, I'm not talking about, a 1/4 inch at one corner. I'm talking about...
Oh, no, that would be huge.
That would be huge.
There'd be cracks going all the way across the house.
Yeah, I'm talking about very, very minor changes in the elevation of the concrete from one corner to the other can create those cracks throughout the house. So just because you have cracks, just because a door's sticking, doesn't mean that the foundation's failed. Humidity is another one that causes problems. Your AC is turned off for 2 weeks and it's not sucking moisture out of the air. Guess what? All your interior doors are going to be a little sticky when you come back because that water, that evil entity, the humidity in the air gets absorbed into the doors and they swell just a fraction, and now they don't close right anymore.
Well, there's one other indication. The door closes, but it won't lock anymore. The bolt won't go into the thing because the door is dropped about 1/8 of an inch, and now it doesn't go in the hole anymore. So you can't secure the bedroom or your closets or whatever. And those are easy to fix. But if you let it continue to go, then eventually you might get to a sticking point.
Right. You might get to a sticking point on something like that. And that's one of those things that is common in this area. I mean, we're in a very humid environment, close to the Gulf. It gets downright warm down here. It's 65, 70 degrees today, a couple days before Christmas.
Yep.
It gets plenty warm down here.
Oh,
So all of those things together create a humidity level and a moisture environment that is just not really conducive to things lasting a long time. So it's important, even more so here, to make sure that they're fully protected.
okay. So let's roll back to the foundation maintenance issues, right? So your driveway has expansion joints in it. They rot away, and now they're pushed down, and they look bad. There's big gaps. That's allowing volumes of water to get underneath those floating slabs and move them around. Okay, so all you got to do is pound in some new, 1x2, or what is that? Is that an inch and a quarter?
It's generally either green 1x4
Okay, 1x4, yeah.
or a 1 inch thick tar, 1x4 tar paper thing that they put in there, because even the green wood is going to rot out eventually.
Well, yeah, it's just a maintenance item that must be addressed, or those things are going to be tilted one way or the other. And then you move into the house. So if you're wondering if your sticking doors are a byproduct of foundation failure, then when you walk into the front of the house, if you've got brick, look for zippers
Right.
up near the corner, anywhere in the field of brick. It's usually going to be at a corner at a window or a door. You'll see it follows the brick in the mortar separating, right? And then, so the front door is hard to open and close. So you walk in and look at the inside of the sheetrock, and you'll see that same failure trend where you have this huge gap at the corner of the top of the trim, and it's going like at a 45-degree angle typically, or you've got cracks going across the ceiling. That movement's going to be everything on top of that slab was not designed to move, and when it does, it's unforgiving.
Well, it's very unforgiving, and if you move the bottom a quarter inch, and that ceiling is 30 feet tall, just that angle change ends up being 3 or 4 inches up at the top.
Oh, it's huge.
So it's huge. So accounting for that when we're talking about foundation failure. Now, there's a lot of different ways to fix foundations, and that's a whole nother show. That would be an interesting show, but being aware,
just an inspection. This is from an inspection perspective.
But being aware of what those things can mean, and not going into a panic and automatically calling a foundation company because the door won't shut. That may not be the problem.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to see, if you have a foundation problem, you're going to see it's going to be more dramatic than the things the light things that we were talking about earlier.
Right.
The sticking door issues, right? So, flashing issues.
Oh goodness.
Chimneys. You got a love affair with your chimney right now, Mr. Big Man.
My house was built in 1996. And when they built the chimney, apparently they ran out of hardy plank, because my entire chimney, they use OSB plywood, Mike, that laminated wood stuff. They cut it and painted it and put it up there, and it looked good. The squirrels got into it. So we went up there last week to take a look and just fixed a piece where the squirrels were. Turned out, I was standing on the ground behind. I don't do ladders anymore. I was standing on the ground behind the house. I saw him run his hand beneath a piece of siding on the chimney and grab a handful of that piece of siding and pull it out.
Whoa.
The water had gotten in there. Thankfully, it was flashed properly, so it wasn't coming down into the house. But all that siding was just shot. We had to completely strip the chimney and start over.
Wow. So the last thing I want to cover on maintenance is AC drain lines. They are accountable for so many. I mean, the AC units are condensing water by the gallons in the attic, and everything underneath it, the bedrooms, the living room, are subject to the rain once that pan fills up.
Once that pan fills up, now, and if there's water in the pan, there's a whole different problem. The AC system, and take a look at your AC unit, they're not all built the same way. They didn't used to require a separate pan underneath.
Yeah, that's a fail safe.
That's a fail-safe.
That's a catch, right?
That's your secondary line. Your primary drain line, which is where most of the failures we've dealt with in the past year comes from. Your primary drain line will connect in a guest bath or something like that in the wall behind there.
Right. It's tying into your P-trap.
Right. It's tying into your whole wastewater vent system, and it drains into that, which is cool until you forget to pour bleach down that line for a while, and green stuff starts growing in there because your attic is warm and there's water in there. And it's just a great place for moss to grow, and it plugs up, and then you have a real problem. We did...
This drain system is not under pressure. Okay,
No.
it's gravity fed, so moss can stop this thing up.
Moss can stop that thing up. That's why you use just a little bit of bleach. And it doesn't, half a cup, a quarter cup, it doesn't matter. All you're trying to do is make that pipe untenable to grow stuff in. We did, I think, 5 or 6 collapsed ceilings due to an AC drain line at the end of the summer. Because remember, the summer was so miserably hot, those AC units were pumping water full time. And it was warm and great growing environments for moss and that kind of stuff. And it grew in the pipe. And it plugged it all up. And then the next thing the homeowner knows, their kitchen ceiling collapses because the guest bath is right above it. Their kitchen ceiling collapses because the overflow didn't have a place to go to. If talking about AC units, on a newer house, if you wander around the outside and look up at the soffit we mentioned earlier, there should be a little pipe sticking out somewhere. If water is coming out of that pipe, call your AC tech.
Immediately. That's
But-
your secondary system draining water. That's your last possibility to resolve
Right.
that problem before it gets in the house.
Right. That is connected straight to the side of the pan that your AC sits in. So if your AC unit is creating too much water, it's dripping into that pan. That pan has to have an outlet. That's why code requires that to be over a window.
You should not see any water coming out of that little half-inch pipe coming out of your soffit.
If you do, call an AC guy because there is a problem up there. Now, surprisingly, a lot of those problems, going back to the home maintenance things, change the AC filter because when the filter gets dirty, the air won't flow through it as well, and it pressurizes everything up, which allows for more condensation, more cold air leaking out, which creates even more condensation, and before you know it, you have a real problem there. But if you just put in a new filter, it allows that air to flow the way it needs to, and you can avoid a lot of problems.
Last thing on AC, this is something I've got a lot of background in the energy efficiency realm, and I've done hundreds of interviews with engineers and stuff on design application problems. And in this particular climate, because everything is so hot around here in your attics, right? After about 3 to 4 years of the AC unit being installed, you need to have the AC guy come out and mastic all the ducts, terminations, and make sure that everything is sealed, because when those ducts become open and cracked, it starts sucking the hot air into the ducting system and blowing it with the cool air, which creates moisture problems. But another thing it does, it creates a negative pressure on the entire envelope, and instead of the doors, if you close the door and you feel it sucking in, it shouldn't suck in. It should be neutral. There's no pushing, no that you see that in commercial buildings, but that is a bad sign for a house if you want your AC system to last, because now it's working 10 times harder to keep up because you're not getting the conditioned air in. You're getting a mixture of hot air and cold air.
Right. I'm not an AC guy, but I know one that I trust with my house, with my wallet, with anything else I have. Absolute AC and Marcus can do anything that, and the big thing is I trust him to do it right. So when I suspect an AC problem, I give Marcus a call. Hey, hook me up, brother. Take a look at this and tell me what we need to do.
All right, we're going to go out to a quick break. We're going to be right back. We're going to be talking about home inspections that are needed and things that those are inspections that we do. So hang in there.
We'll be right back with more of the Old Glory Renovations Podcast. Old Glory Renovations revolutionized the industry to put the customer in total control. There's little to no deposit to begin work, weekly invoicing only on completed work, weekly itemized labor and material cost for invoicing, eliminating wasting your money with overpriced turnkey estimates. Their trade labor are on staff and not subcontractors. They don't leave projects sitting dormant for days or weeks or waiting on a subcontractor. They have proper general liability insurance coverage. Call Old Glory Renovations now and take control while maximizing your buying power. Old Glory, trust, honesty, confidence. Taking the fear out of home improvement. 281-546-8836 or online at oldglorytx.com. The Old Glory Renovations Podcast, helping you enjoy your renovations. Now let's get back to Rob and Mike.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking with us at Old Glory Renovations Podcast. I'm here with Rob Hefner. He's the builder, and my name is Mike Landry. And I want you to understand one thing. This is the core principle and value of this company: trust, confidence, and honesty. And that is the creed by which this company operates. You can give us a call at 281-546-8836, 281-546-8836, or you can just go online to oldglorytx.com. All right, now we're going to be talking about home inspections, okay? Rob wants to put some clarity to that, but it is directly tied to the maintenance issues that we just got through covering. So, Rob, home inspections.
Home inspections. Well, all of those things that we talked about as far as maintaining your home, how is your home doing on it? What do you need to do? What are the priorities for your house? Well, home inspections is an almost legal term in Texas, dealing with Texas real estate and all that kind of stuff. We don't do home inspections because if there's too many legal implications to doing it. Bottom line, I don't want to carry that much insurance. But if you need a professional set of eyes to look at your house and see if the maintenance is where it needs to be on it, we can absolutely do that. Coming out and looking at the windows, and be happy to walk the house with you and show you the things we're looking at so that you don't have to, bring somebody out there every time to do it.
You may think so. I mean, bottom line is you're a professional remodeler.
Right.
You're doing not a inspection to write up a report for the purpose of selling that house to somebody else.
Correct.
You're doing these assessments to determine whether there is early detection for failure before it gets out of hand.
Right.
Or whether it's fine and maybe you're just thinking it's failing and it's not.
Well, if you've listened to the first half of the show and you're wondering, oh my goodness, where do I put that $8 tube of caulk to save myself $10,000 in 5 years? That's the kind of thing that we can help with. There's a lot of those little details like that, and that's the kind of thing that we can help with, especially on the structural side. Like I said earlier in the first segment, 60-70% of all the work I do is due to deferred maintenance. Well, if you're not a builder, if you're not a remodeler, if you're not in that kind of world, how do you know what to look for?
It wouldn't be any different than me walking in and trying to fill in for a nurse, and they give me some kind of syringe, and I say, where am I supposed to stick that?
Well, it's no different for me looking at all those bright colored lights on that panel that we're plugged into here. I don't know how any of this stuff works, but you know what? I know how to keep a house dry, safe, and secure on the inside.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. You'll save yourself a ton of aggravation. Promise. I promise you. And tens of thousands of dollars in your money in your pocket. And your house will always look great if you follow these tips and these suggestions that Rob made today in regard to maintenance and maintaining things. If you see something starting to be a problem, address it now. Don't wait.
If nothing else, get an idea of what it's going to cost to fix it. You see paint cracking on the inside of the house, and most people are going to think, oh, no, my foundation's failing. That's going to cost $45,000. I can't do anything about it. Well, maybe not. It may just be a crack in the paint that we can come in and fix real quick for, $100 or so, $200 or so. It's not.
The crack is not an indication of catastrophic failure.
The crack is not an indication of catastrophic failure. Missing caulking around a window is not an indication. It's an indication, but it's not a guarantee that there's damage inside the wall.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways. Right. If you ignore
it's
it,
coming.
it will be.
It's coming.
But finding that stuff in a reasonable time frame, quite honestly, I would rather do $10 worth of repairs for 100 customers than $100 worth of repairs for 5 customers. It just makes more sense for who we are as a business.
Well, they're going to love you for it, I can tell you that, because most remodeling companies don't want anything to do with that crap.
You know what? This company is about building a relationship with our clients, about treating them the way we want to be treated. It's not about making home runs. It's not about trying to maximize cost on every job. My cost, I charge time and material on every job. So it doesn't matter. My thing, this model that I've built here, depends on working every day. So small jobs, big jobs, I don't care. I need to work every day. I need to have my crews busy every day. And these inspections are a way to keep my crews busy as well.
Well, the difference is your crews they're in your house. They work for you 100% of the time.
They're literally in my house.
They're not subcontracted.
They're literally in my house. They did a chimney this past weekend.
Well, we're going to wrap up the segments for today. Old Glory Construction and Renovations.
That's me.
Trust, confidence, and honesty. That's the core of this business. You retired from the Army.
Yes, I did.
And you still act like that every day.
It's some habits can't be broken. That's one I don't want to break. It's a beautiful world if you just let it be, do the right things, and good things will happen.
The reason people will do love working with you is because you're very regimented and you get it done quickly. And you just don't see that in construction anymore. Oh, Mrs. Jones, we got some other deal going on here. We'll be back in like 4 or 5 days, and
nope,
maybe sooner.
Nope. A job lead shows up at the house, and he is there every day until the job is done.
Old Glory Renovations empowers our customers with control and predictability. Call them today at 281-546-8836. 281-546-8836, or find them online at oldglorytx.com.
Looking forward to hearing from you, folks.
See you next week.
That's all for this week's Old Glory Renovations podcast. Tune in next week when Mike and Rob help you enjoy your renovations. Find out more at oldglorytx.com.